Hey folks, my name is Nick, and today we're taking a look at Mezmo, which is a tile laying game that comes in this little pouch here. It's got all these little artistic designs on all the tiles, and this is from Walter Sharrow of Worldwide Chaos Games. Now, you may remember, if you've been following Board Game Brawl for a while, that I reviewed a game called Line Dice that he provided me with, and he also, in the interest of full disclosure, provided me with a copy of Mezmo for review, but I did not take any compensation for this review, and I'm giving you my honest thoughts about what I think about the game. Now, in Line Dice, you were placing very unique custom dice with etched little roads and arrows on them in order to create roads out on the board and basically be the first one to go out of your dice. Mezmo plays somewhat similarly in that you have these tiles that each have these very unique artistic designs on them like that, and you're trying to put them out on the board and get rid of all of your tiles before the other players do. But there's a little bit of an interesting twist to this game in that you're trying to create an artistic design and the other players act as the judges for the tiles that you put out. Let's take a look at how it plays. Mezmo is a tile laying game for 3 to 10 players. Each player is going to get 7 tiles to start with, and all the tiles have these really cool artistic designs on them. And some of them look like they're sort of based off of ancient Aztec or Inca art. Some of them kind of defy description, but they all look really cool and really intricate. So you'll start the game with your 7 tiles, and the goal of the game is to be the first one to run out of your 7 tiles, and of course to try your best to not take any more tiles. And at the beginning, you're going to take the stack of tiles after everyone's got their 7. You'll draw one at random, and this is going to be the starting piece. So you'll just put it in the center of the table there. Decide who goes first, and then that player is going to take one of their 7 tiles and try to connect it. Now, I should mention that you can choose to keep your tiles either secret or hidden. Everyone will choose at the beginning of the game how they're going to do that. If you want to be more competitive, you'll keep all of your tiles hidden so that the other players can't see them. But if you keep your tiles open, then the other players can look at what you have and might give you suggestions on tiles that you could play. But let's say that this piece here is our starting tile, and I need to play a tile. Now, the main rule of this game is that tiles need to connect to each other. So, for instance, you see that on this tile here, you have these lines going off of the side. So what you would want to do is find a tile that has some sort of lines on the side like this and try to connect it together. Now, whatever tile you choose, I could easily choose that tile, or I could take this tile which has a little line going off the side and it can connect right there. And whatever tile you want to choose to do that, once you make your final decision and put it out there, you're entering that tile into judgment. The other players at the table, and remember that there must be a minimum of 3 players in this game, so at least 2 people will be judging your artistic creation, have to decide if that tile really meets the criteria of the piece. So let's say that that's the final tile that I decided on. The other players are going to look at that and judge whether or not it looks like it matches correctly with the other tile. Now, of course, it has to meet the criteria of meeting up with the line, but the other judges will decide whether or not it looks good. And it will, as you play more and more tiles, the artistic piece will get bigger and bigger, and therefore the criteria for judging might be harsher because the judges may want the tile to work with the entire piece, so to speak. Now, going back to the one tile that I played, if the judges say, okay, that's fine, I think that's going to work, then I get to keep my tile out there. Great, play passes to the next player, and I'm down by 1 tile. I'm down to 6 tiles, and I'm much closer to winning the game. But it's possible that the judges will say, no, I'm rejecting the tile. This just does not work for me. And also, if there's a tie between judges, let's say you only have 2 judges, then that also counts as a failure as well. And if you end up with a failure, not only do you have to take back the tile, but you're going to have to draw a new tile from the bag, which means you're going to be in a much worse position than you were in before, and play passes to the next player. Now, if the judges accept a tile that you put out there, and by pure chance it happens to have no other way, no other routes to victory, like let's say, I don't really have a good example, but okay, let's say that this is a very simple one, but let's say that this was a design that was out there. There are no other branching paths leading off of this tile, and therefore I've sort of completed this section of the puzzle. If the judges accept that tile that I just put out there that completed that section, I get to wipe away that entire piece of the portrait and start a new portrait with any tile from my set of my choice, which effectively means I get to get rid of an extra tile and start a new branching path. But that's basically the game. Players are going to take turns playing tiles, hoping that the judges allow them to put out those tiles, trying to make a beautiful masterpiece and trying to get the approval of the judges to let this artistic masterpiece stand and be the first one to go out. So when I played and reviewed Line Dice, I praised it for being a very simple game that could be a great filler, and I also loved the unique dice that came with it. And I thought that the mechanics of just trying to go out first, while it could be a little simplistic for some gamers, it worked well, and it looked really cool when you had them all out there, and so I thought that it was a neat little game. Now, with Mezmo, it's essentially... the core of it is essentially the same as Line Dice, but as I said at the beginning, it has that twist of having the other players judge the merits of your artistic design. Now, I will say this, the tiles do look awesome. That's, absolutely the best thing about the game are the really cool tiles. I don't know if these are the final versions of the tiles or not, but even if they are, I think that they work really well. I love the little designs etched into them, and certainly when you have everything set out at the end of a game or even by the middle of the game, it looks very nice out there on the table. So I can't complain about the component quality here. However, that whole judging aspect of the game does not work with me. I have had a serious problem with that mechanic in other games. The one that I'm thinking of most notoriously is Story War, and also Jetpack Unicorn, which I have yet to review as well, but especially in Story War, where there's just one or more people who are just this arbitrary judge who can just make a judgment for no particular reason. And, Cards Against Humanity gets it right. I know that game is leagues away, very, very different than this game. But in that game, because you don't know whose card you're picking, much like in apples to apples, you're making a judgment, and yes, it can be kind of arbitrary, but nevertheless, it's fair because you don't have any information on whose card is what, ideally. In this game, you know who played what tile. Even if you choose to keep your tiles hidden, you're putting it out there for everyone to judge. And whoever is the other players playing with you who are judging for that round, if they see that you're about to go out, there's absolutely no reason for them to say, oh yeah, that's fine, that looks great, that works fine. No, if they see that you're winning the game, that you're going to do well, there's no incentive for them not to reject the tile. And this can lead to some sort of humorous comments with the players, with the people who are the judges, at least in our group, acting like, oh, well, no, that doesn't work for this, and this BS reason. And that's sort of unintentional fun, or maybe it's intentional fun, I don't know. That's the thing, too. I'm not sure what niche this game is supposed to fit into. It could be interpreted as a party game, because it does go up to a pretty high amount of players. And certainly, if you're not taking the game that seriously, if you're just taking it in the spirit of what it's supposed to be, and if everyone's honest with their judging and is truly judging it based on their artistic merits, then this could be a good, fun party game. But the problem is, I don't think it works for gamerly gamers. The gamerly gamers that I have in my group especially need something more concrete to judge or base off of, or maybe because of the humor in a game like Cards Against Humanity and its judging, that works. But in this game, you're definitely looking at the other players, seeing how likely they are to go out, and thinking, I'm not going to let him get another tile out. No way. That's just the way it was in my group, and that's why I think this game will have a very niche audience. It's going to be for people who do not take their game seriously at all and just want a light filler for, either for before or after a game, big game session, or for a party situation. It's going to be maybe for older people or for very young kids who just want to see the cool tiles and the artistic layout out there. And again, I don't have an issue with that aspect of it, but the actual gameplay, I just feel that there's not enough meat there. I just feel that whole judging aspect, if he had just put this out with the same mechanics as Line Dice, essentially as a re-theme, I would say, I would have the same opinion as Line Dice. It'd be, a good light game, not too much depth there, but it's definitely got some strategy to it. In this game, I don't really feel that there's a lot of strategy. I just feel like you play the best tile that you can and hope that the other players either like it or want the game to end sooner and let you get away with it. That's my opinion, but the tiles do look really, really nice. So, my name is Nick. This has been Board Game Brawl, reminding you to get out there and game every day in every way. Take care.